They told me not to step inside the gates of Blackridge Hollow after dark. They said the house on the hill watches you, that it remembers every footstep, every trespasser, every sin. Now I believe them. Before I go any further, I have to ask, where are you watching this from? And what time is it? I hope it's not dark where you are, because what you're about to hear might follow you after the screen goes black. It began with a letter, an old one, yellowed at the corners and sealed with wax, found inside a thrift store Bible I picked up from a roadside stop in West Virginia. The store didn't even have a name, just a rusted sign that said salvage and scriptures. The letter had no return address, no modern date, only a trembling script. To whoever finds this, leave the Blackridge place be. The ground there is wrong, and what's buried never stays. Signed RF, the 3rd of September 1892. I didn't know what it meant, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. There was a Blackridge Hollow just a few hours east, tucked into the old coal hills near the Virginia border. A few people I asked had heard of it. Fewer were willing to talk. The man who finally told me where it was kept his eyes on the road the whole time. "Don't go," he said. "That house eats stories. You go digging, and it'll write you into the next one." I went anyway. Hollow is barely a place. One long dirt road, 2 burned-out cabins, and the mansion at the top of the rizzet's black windows like open eyes. The house was still standing, 3 stories of grey stone and rotting timber, the kind of place you'd expect to be swallowed by vines in time. But it wasn't. Something kept it upright. I parked by the rusted iron gate and climbed over. It was 6 p.m. The wind was silent. No birds, no bugs. No sun past the trees. I stepped onto the overgrown path, and the gate slammed shut behind me. I swear, I hadn't touched it. I tried to chalk it up to the wind, but there was no wind. The mansion was massive, at least 150 years old, maybe more. There were carvings above the doorway, Latin words I didn't understand, and a crest for sharp towers, wrapped in barbed vine. A date was etched into the stone just above the doorframe, 1721. I didn't know the Blackridge name before, but the deeper I looked, the more I found. According to scattered papers in the local courthouse archives, they were among the oldest landowning families in that region. Plantation owners, slaveholders, miners, traders in everything from tobacco to timber to flesh. The last official record showed the estate being seized in 1887 after a string of disappearances. Entire work crews would vanish overnight. Coal miners, buried alive, maids who never clocked out, and the family gone. No graves, no heirs, no explanation. But the locals whispered that the house didn't lose them, it kept them inside. I stepped through the front door. The air hit me like a wall dust. Mildew, something coppery underneath. The smell of rot and regret. The house was dark, but not empty. A grand staircase rose before me, worn down at the center like too many feet had passed the same path. The wallpaper peeled in strips. Candle sconces lined the walls, old but untouched by time. No cobwebs. That's when I started hearing things. Creaking overhead, floorboards, a step, then another. I froze, waited. Silence. I took a deep breath and called out, "Hello." Nothing. I moved through the front parlor, passing heavy furniture covered in white sheets. But something was wrong. The dust was under the sheets, not on them, as if someone had lifted them recently, as if someone had used this room. There was a massive painting above the fireplace, a family portrait, faded but clear enough. A man, in a dark coat, a stern woman at his side. 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, but their faces were smeared. No, not smeared, scratched out, not by time but by hand. Deep gashes where their eyes should have been. I kept walking. Something kept pulling me in. A hallway to the left led to the drawing room. I stepped inside and felt the temperature drop. Colder than outside. Much colder. On the floor was a music box, open, still turning, but there was no key, just an eerie little tune playing all by itself. I leaned down. The wood was warm, like it had just been touched. That's when I saw the footprints, small ones, bare, leading away from the box toward the corner of the room. I followed, and I swear to I heard breathing, shallow, quick, right there in front of me. But I saw nothing. The door behind me slammed shut. I ran through the hallway into the library. The walls were lined with books, most of them in Latin, German, and something I couldn't identify. Symbols I'd only seen in occult texts and old witch trials. There were shelves filled with jars, herbs, dried roots, bones. One book was left open on the table. It was a journal. The first line read, "They told us not to dig under the chapel." We didn't listen. I flipped to the back. The child won't stop singing, even without a tongue. I backed away. Something moved on the floor above. A dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled. A crossword dot, then a knock from inside the wall. 3 soft knocks and a whisper. "Find the bones. Free the boy." I didn't imagine it. I couldn't have, because as soon as the whisper faded, a cold wind blew out the candle beside me, and I was not alone. I turned toward the door and saw her, a girl, pale, barefoot, in a nightgown stained at the hem. She didn't move, she just stood. Their head tilted, eyes black, hollow. She lifted one hand and pointed up to the second floor, then she was gone, vanished. I didn't want to follow, but I did. The stairs creaked under my weight, every step heavier. 7 p.m. I don't know how I knew, but I did. A grandfather clock had started ticking somewhere, even though its face was shattered. I reached the landing. Portraits lined the hallway, each one worse than the last. One showed a woman holding a child, but the child's face had been burned away. Another showed a man being buried alive by cloaked figures. The last one, it was blank, except for my reflection. I swear to you, my face was staring back, but I wasn't moving, and the reflection was smiling. Turned away. Found the master bedroom at the end of the hall. The door creaked open. Inside, the air was thick wet, almost. The bed was still made, curtains drawn, a crucifix upside down above the dresser, and carved into the floor deep into the wood was a circle. Symbols around it, something old, something wrong, and in the center, teeth, human teeth, hundreds arranged in a spiral. Some of them still had blood. I stumbled back and heard it again, the music box playing from the hallway. But slower, almost groaning, I turned to run. But the hallway stretched, longer than before, too long, like the house was shifting, changing, trapping, and the girl was back at the far end. She opened her mouth wide, too wide, and screamed, but there was no sound, only blood dripping from her lips. She pointed again, down this time, to the basement. I didn't want to go, but the door at the end of the hall opened on its own. The stairs down were steep, stone, wet. I heard chains, and singing. Low, childlike, double quotes, ring around the rosy. But it was twisted off, key, wrong, I. Reached the bottom step, and the air changed. It smelled like death, old death, mold and meat and earth. The basement was massive, dirt, floor, old mining tools. A tunnel, carved crudely into the stone wall, led deeper, carved. Above the tunnel was a message. Below lies the debt of Blackridge, and next to it a date etched in fresh scratch marks. The 3rd of September, the same date from the letter. Something moved inside the tunnel. Not a person, too tall. Too many legs, or arms, or both. I don't know, but I heard it crawl, closer, and I ran, back up, through the hall, out the door. The gate didn't stop me this time. I made it to my car and didn't look back until I hit the main road. It was 8 p.m., but the sky was still black. No stars, no moon, just silence. Since that night, I've been followed, not by a person, by a feeling, by dreams of blood, by faces I didn't see that night, but now remember in detail. The girl, the boy, the man with no jaw, and always the teeth. Sometimes I wake up with dirt under my nails. Sometimes I find footprints in my kitchen, and one's a music box on my nightstand, still playing. So, if you've watched this far, be careful. Stories from that house don't end. They stretch, they follow, and now, so might something else. What do you think? Is buried beneath Blackridge, and are you sure you're alone? I should have burned that letter. I should have left the music box in the dirt and never crossed the gate again. But I did instead. 2 nights later at exactly 8 p.m., I found the box on my kitchen table, still open, still turning, still playing that same warped lullaby. I live alone, no one else has keys, and every window was still locked from the inside. So I did the stupidest thing possible. I went back. The Blackridge mansion was waiting for me. That's not metaphor, it was waiting. This time, the gates were already open. The front door swung wide when I stepped onto the porch, like a mouth ready to bite. I went in anyway. It was 6 p.m., and somehow, it smelled worse than before, more metallic, like iron and old blood. But the floors were clean, swept, mopped. No dust, no rot, not a single footprint. As if the house knew I was coming and dressed up for the occasion. The fireplace was lit. No one else in sight. Called out again. Nothing, but on the mantel above the flames was something new. A photograph, not painted, real, faded, sepia, curled at the corners. 5 people, the same Blackridge family I'd seen in the painting, but this time their faces were visible. They looked directly at the camera. Stern, pale eyes like coal. One of the daughters held a doll with nails in its mouth. The mother clutched a Bible, upside down, and the father, he wasn't looking at the lens. He was staring past it, over the photographer's shoulder, straight into mine. Someone had written on the back of the photo, in red ink, no name, no date, just one phrase: we are the sin that eats its own shadow. I dropped it, and from behind the mantel, a gust of wind blew out the fire. The room went cold, pitch dark, except for the candlelight upstairs, a flicker, then another. One by one, they lit themselves up the staircase, leading me, calling me. I followed. My body didn't want to, but something in my head kept whispering, You already belonged to the house. The second floor was different, no longer abandoned. It looked lived in. Curtains clean, lamps glowing, beds made, and from down the hall, a sound footsteps, fast, small, like a child running barefoot. I turned the corner and saw the girl again, the one from the night before. She stood at the end of the hall, staring at a closed door. She didn't turn, didn't blink, just raised one pale hand and pointed. The door opened on its own. Inside was a nursery, wallpaper of rabbits and crows, a rocking chair still swaying, a cradle with black silk sheets, and hanging above it, a mobile made of teeth and bones. I stepped closer. Inside the cradle was no child, only a bundle of hair, braided tied with red ribbon, still fresh, still bleeding. The moment I saw it, the mobile started, spinning dot fast, faster dot. The teeth clattered like wind chimes, and something laughed, not a child, something deeper, mocking. I turned to run and slammed face first into someone, a man, tall, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, black wool, silver buttons, no eyes, just stitched lids. His jaw unhinged, literally, and he screamed without sound. His mouth opened wide enough to crack bone, and from that dark cavern of a mouth, flies poured out. Hundreds, buzzing, swarming, choking me. I stumbled back into the hallway, gasping for air. The girl was gone, so was the nursery. Just a solid wall where the door had been, and the man. He wasn't there anymore, but a trail of muddy footprints led away from where I stood toward the attic stairs. I should have left. I should have run like hell and never looked back, but I kept going, up, into the attic, step after step, each one colder. The door creaked open to reveal nothing at first, just dust, shadows, and then I saw them. Dozens of figures, standing facing the same direction. Children, men, women, all still, their skin grey, their eyes sunken, every one of them with no mouth, just a smooth patch of skin where lips should be. They didn't move, didn't breathe, until I stepped inside. Then they turned, all at once, their necks cracking, their heads tilting, and they pointed. Not at me, behind me. I turned around. There was a mirror on the wall, old, cracked. But in its reflection I was not alone. Someone was standing right behind me, a tall woman, dressed in mourning black, veil over her face. I spun around, nothing there. Looked back at the mirror. She was still there, and this time she lifted her veil. There were no features, just raw skin and empty sockets. She pressed her face to the glass from inside the reflection, and her skin began to split, as if trying to push through. I ran back down the stairs, but the house shifted again. The staircase twisted, turned downward, deeper than it should have gone, and the floor below. Not the first floor, not the basement, something else, something older. The walls were stone wet, covered in claw marks, symbols etched deep into every surface. It smelled like blood and wax, and something else, something metallic and ancient. In the center of the room was a table, stone covered in red cloth, and on it a book bound in human skin. I know how that sounds, but I'm not guessing. Could see the pores, the scars, the tattoo of a child's name, half faded on one corner. I opened it, and every page was filled with names, dates, punishments. Each entry ended the same way, buried, but never forgiven. I flipped through faster, saw more names than mine. My name written in ink, still wet, with a time beside it. 9 p.m. I looked at my watch. It was 8 p.m. exactly. Something moved in the darkness behind the table. Chains rattled, low, growling. Not human, not human, not animal, somewhere in between. I backed up, and a voice filled the room. Deep, slow, crawling through the stone-like roots. You read your name. That means it's time. The door slammed shut. Candles flared to life. The table shifted. The cloth pulled, itself aware, revealing bones beneath dozens. All small, all children. Some still wearing jewelry, little bracelets, tiny shoes. One skull had a silver crown on it. Another had a pacifier fused into the jawbone. I dropped the book. The voice spoke again. The debt of Blackridge is never paid. It only trades hands. And then I saw him. The man from the painting. The patriarch. But not in flesh. His figure burned itself into the stone wall. Black, smoke forming his outline. Eyes glowing red from the sockets. He stepped forward without moving. The shadows around him bending like limbs, reaching, grasping. I turned to run, and the ground beneath me gave out. I fell through the floor, through time. I saw flashes. The Blackridge family performing rituals. Children tied in circles. Fire in the chapel. Burials in the well. Screams, screams, screams. And then I was back in the main hall, flat on my back. It was 9 p.m. The music box was sitting next to me, closed, but ticking, somehow. I made it to my car, drove without seeing the road, didn't stop until the sun rose behind me. But that night, at exactly 9 p.m., I found a new letter on my doorstep. Same wax seal, same trembling hand. Only it wasn't a warning. This time, it was an invitation. You opened the book. You saw your name. Come home, and taped to the bottom corner was the same photo from the mantel. But now there were 6 people in it, and the last one was me. My eyes black, my jaw unhinged. My hand resting on the shoulder of the boy with no tongue. The house hadn't haunted me. It had claimed me. Now I think I know what they meant by the debt of Blackridge, and I think it's my turn to collect. They say when a place remembers you, it never lets go. I hadn't slept in 2 days, not real sleep, not with the noises in the walls, not with the whispers through the vents. They come at 9 p.m, sharp, every night. The same voices I heard in the Blackridge house, singing, crying, calling my name like they've known me forever. I tried to block it out, moved motels, burned the music, threw away the photo, but the fire wouldn't catch, and the photo came back, folded neatly beneath my pillow. It was changing again. First, it was 6 people. Now, it's 7. The newest figure stands in the background, almost hidden in the shadows of the doorway, but I can make out her eyes, black as oil, and her hands bone white, and covered in ash. She's watching me, waiting. The letter told me to come home, but I have no home left. So I did what desperate people do. I found someone who believes the unbelievable. Her name was Loretta Finch, a folklorist, paranormal historian. Ran a podcast called Hollow Tracks. I sent her the letter, the photo, the location. She called me back that night. Her voice shook. I've studied Blackridge for 20 years, she said, but no one's ever come back from it twice. Not without something inside them. She agreed to meet me the next morning at a diner 2 towns over, but she never showed. I found her car in the parking lot, still running. Driver door wide open, radio blaring white noise. No Loretta, only a smear of ash on the seat dot, and in the glove box a page torn from a book. One word circled in red, Aramor. I had no idea what it meant, but the moment I read it aloud, every street lamp in the parking lot blinked off, and my phone started ringing. The caller ID said the 3rd of September. I didn't answer, didn't need to, because I could already hear it. That same tune playing from behind the diner. The music box, even though I burned it, even though it should have been gone. I followed the sound, and behind the dumpster, there it was, open, turning, sitting atop a patch of soil that hadn't been there yesterday. Fresh, wet, someone had dug it up. There were fingernail marks in the earth, blood mixed with dirt, and next to it, something worse, a human tongue, small, like a child's, still twitching, still warm. I got in the car and drove for hours, but no matter which direction I took, every sign led back to Blackridge Hollow. The roads warped, names changed, the GPS glitched, then died. I crossed the same dead oak tree 3 times. Finally, I gave up at 6 p.m. I pulled off the road, and when I looked up, I was there. The mansion stood in front of me, closer than before, crisper, not falling apart anymore. The vines were gone. The windows glowed with soft candlelight. Smoke drifted from the chimney, and the front door was already open, like it knew I was coming back. This time, I didn't hesitate. I walked in, and the house greeted me like an old friend, warm, too. Warm. I heard a piano playing in the parlor, a gentle waltz. I stepped closer and saw the source, a boy, no older than 10, sitting on a velvet bench, playing with precision, his head cocked sideways. A jagged scar ran across his neck. No tongue, no lips, but he still hummed along. Somehow, he stopped playing the moment he saw me, turned and smiled, then pointed behind me. I turned and saw the dining room set for 8, silverware shining, wine glasses filled with something too thick to be wine, and seated at the table. The family, all of them, the Blackridges, as they were in the photo, but real now, pale, motionless, their skin waxy, their mouths stitched shut except the mother. Her lips were open too wide, split at the corners. She whispered a single word, "Eat." I took a step back. The boy was gone. The table was empty. The plates covered in ash dot, then something scratched the inside of the walls, all around. Me. Fast. Clawed. Pacing. Snarling, like something was in the walls, just beneath the surface, waiting to be born. I ran upstairs, but the hallway had changed again, longer, twisting. I passed 100 doors, some bleeding at the seams, some screaming behind them. One door slammed open on its own. Inside was a chapel, small. Wooden. Stained glass, shattered long ago, but the altar still stood, covered in bones. A single red candle burned at its center, and scrawled across the walls, over and over in something brown and flaking. We deserve the pit. We deserve the pit. We deserve the pit. A girl knelt at the front, praying back and forth. Cain, back and forth. I didn't see her face, but her voice was clear. Forgive us, forgive us. She lifted her hands, blackened with soutane, pressed them to her own eyes, then screamed, blood pouring down her cheeks like tears. I couldn't move. Not until I heard the growl behind me, a deep, unnatural vibration in the air. The door slammed shut. I was trapped, and something was in the room now. Not human, not visible, just felt, heavy, wrong. I backed away, toward the window, but the window was gone. Just wall, just stone. I turned to the altar, and the candle had gone out. Everything went dark. I don't remember how I got out. I only remember waking up on the library floor, back on the first floor. My hands were bleeding, my nails cracked, and next to me was the book again, the one bound in skin. Still open to the same page. My name, 9 p.m., and a second name now. Loretta Finch, 9 p.m. I looked to the corner, and there she was, or what was left, her body slumped, ash-covered, eyes wide open, her mouth sewn shut with wire and carved into her chest deep. Deliberate letters. You read the word, now you belong. I screamed, and the lights in the house flared. Every candle burning brighter, blinding, then extinguished. Pitch black. The voice came again, deeper this time, like something old and hungry. Say the word again. Speak it. Let it in. I ran for the door. It didn't open. The handle twisted, then melted in my hand. I kicked it. Nothing. Then dash from behind me, a hum. Low. Beautiful. The boy, sitting on the stairs, smiling, holding the music. Boxed. He opened it, let it play, and spoke without a tongue. Autumn. The house shook, cracked. The walls wept black water, and behind the wallpaper I saw faces, pushing out dozens, maybe hundreds, pressed tight mouths, open, screaming soundlessly, their eyes rolled back, their skin torn, all buried, alive within the walls. The voice laughed. You opened the door. We are awake again. And the last thing I saw before I blacked out was my own reflection in the foyer mirror, smiling, but I wasn't smiling. My eyes were black, and someone else was behind them, watching, waiting, still there. Even now, I feel it's something breathing just under my skin at night. My reflection still smiles when I don't. At 9 p.m., my lights flicker, and sometimes the music box starts to play, even though it's not there, even though I burned it twice. This story isn't over, it's just becoming mine, and soon, maybe yours too. Last night, I woke up standing outside the house, barefoot in the rain, with dirt under my nails and blood in my mouth. I had no memory of getting there. The house loomed in front of me, its windows flickering like breath behind frost. It was 9 p.m., and the door creaked open again before I even took a step. It wanted me back. And the worst part, I wanted to go in. My hands moved before I could stop them. The inside had changed again. It was no longer abandoned. The walls were clean, the floors polished. The chandeliers above the grand hall glowed soft gold. The house was alive. Now, feeding, rebuilding, and it smelled like perfume and rot, as if someone had tried to mask the decay with lavender and lilac. But the blood still seeped through. A figure stood by the fireplace. A woman, the matriarch, Mrs. Blackridge. But she didn't look at me. She stared into the flames and spoke in a voice made of ash. The family line must remain. You were chosen. You carry the mark now. I tried to speak, but my jaw locked. She turned slowly. Her face was cracked porcelain, eyes missing, blood trickling from her ears. You brought the word back. Mortem, the death that glows. The moment she said it, the fire died. Smoke filled the room, and her body collapsed to the floor like dust from an old curtain. Only her black dress remained. I staggered back into the hallway. That's when I saw it. The child, not the boy from the piano. This one was younger, maybe 5, thin, covered in soot, half his face missing, but his eyes were still wide and blue. He held something in his hand, a doll, no head, no limbs, just a cloth torso stitched with teeth. He placed it on the floor, then looked up at me. There, under the chapel, he whispered, where they fed the light. I didn't want to know what that meant, but my feet were already moving. The chapel door had changed, again now, made of bone-white wood, with a brass handle shaped like a finger. I stepped inside. The altar had been removed. Now, there was only a trapdoor in the center of the floor. UNLATCHED. Breathing. Yes, breathing. Inhale, exhale, like lungs made of timber and stone. I dropped down. The ladder went farther than it should have, farther than the mansion could physically allow. Deeper, down, past the grave dirt, down into the roots of something old. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, and in that chamber I saw them. The Blackridge ancestors, dozens of them, chained in a circle, eyes gouged out, tongues nailed to their chests. Still alive, not human anymore. They pulsed their skin like candle, wax, their bodies twitching as if puppeted by something unseen. They didn't speak, but the air itself did. Words slid into my ears like oil. We are the debt, the hunger, the gate. The house is a mouth. You are the tongue. Feed us. I turned to run, but there was no exit anymore, only walls of flesh and bone. The chamber began to shift, like a throat convulsing. Something enormous stirred beneath the floor, something with teeth, rows of them. I saw them pressing through the stone, like fingers through wet fabric, and the center of the room began to split open. Not crack, split, revealing a pit beneath, not black, but gold, glowing, molten, alive. It pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, and I felt it, calling me by name. I was shaking, sweating, tears down my face, and still I stepped closer, because that's what the house wants. It doesn't haunt, it recruits. I heard the laughter of children, but twisted like their throats were wrong. Then I heard my mother's voice, and my father's dead, 10 years now, calling me home, telling me I've always belonged. The pit widened. The floor throbbed. The teeth beneath the surface clicked in rhythm, and then I saw her again. The woman from the photo, the one that keeps appearing. She stepped out of the pit like smoke, becoming solid. Her eyes were empty, her smile too wide. She took my hand, and suddenly I was standing in the foyer. Again, clean, dressed in old-fashioned clothing. Dinner guests at my sides. The boy playing piano, the house humming as if nothing had ever happened. I looked in the mirror, and I wasn't me. Not fully, something else looked back. A blend, a fusion, eyes that weren't mine. Teeth sharper, I spoke, and my voice sounded double, layered. We remember now. I stumbled back. Blinked and I was in a hospital. Fluorescent lights, nurses, machines. They told me I'd been found in the woods, muttering in Latin. They said I hadn't eaten in days. They showed me the marks. On my skin, words carved in my sleep. Orum mortem, 9 p.m. They kept me under observation. 3 days. Nothing changed until the third night, at exactly 9 p.m. All the lights went out, and I heard the music box. From under my bed, even though it wasn't there. The nurse came to check on me. She smiled, and I saw something move behind her eyes, something writhing, twisting. The house had found her too now. I understand Blackridge doesn't live in a single location. It's a virus, an infection, a curse that spreads through memory, through story, through belief. If you know about it, it knows about you. If you hear the word, it follows you. The pit isn't a hole in the ground. It's a place in the mind. And the more you remember, the more it opens. I was released a week later. Clean bill of health. But that was a lie. I still see the children at the foot of my bed, still hear the bones rattle in the walls, and the photo, now it shows 9 people. The latest is a man in a hospital gown, me smiling. Eyes black, jaw broken open, hands holding the doll of teeth. The final piece clicked last night. I went digging into old court records. One sealed document from 1893, a witness testimony from a servant named Elias Finch, Loretta's ancestor. He spoke of an underground chamber, of the glowing pit of golden death, of how the Blackridge family made a pact during the famine of 1720. They gave something to an entity beneath the land, something that glowed, something that fed. They called it the inheritor. It gave them wealth, power, influence. But the price was never ending. They had to feed its souls, not just blood, memory, identity, belief. So they began to trap people in the house, let the entity devour their pasts, their names, their reflections, their story, and then they'd vanish, as if they never existed. The house doesn't kill, it rewrites. It takes what you were and absorbs it, and in return it lives on. I think that's what it's doing to me, night by night, replacing my thoughts with its own. I can't remember my parents' faces anymore. Can't remember my last birthday. Only the boy. Only the music box. Only the pit. It's all I dream now. The house has rewritten my roots. I've been adopted by something ancient, and now I understand the final phrase written in the book beneath the chapel. Carved in blood. When the bloodline runs thin, the house will find new flesh. You are flesh now. Tonight is 03 September. It's 6 p.m. I don't think I'll see 10. Not as myself. And if this reaches you, if you're watching this now, the lights in your room start to flicker. If your reflection doesn't blink when you do, if a music box starts to play when you swear you don't own one, it means the house has remembered you. And you can't run from memory. You can only become part of it. The last thing I remember as myself was hearing the music box. Inside my chest, not near me, inside. It ticked behind my ribs, slow and steady like a second heart. Tonight is 3 September. It's 9 p.m. and I know what comes next. This is the part where I stop being me. Let me tell you what happened between now and the moment I lost everything. Let me warn you before the house erases even this. After the hospital, I tried to disappear, burned every record of myself, ditched my phone, lived off the grid, but the house doesn't need an address. It lives in memory, in mirrors, in rhythm, and I was still humming the song, even when I didn't know it, even when I dreamed about other places. They'd all eventually turn into its halls. I've walked into gas stations and come out in Blackridge's kitchen, stepped into bathrooms, and found myself at the foot of the chapel stairs. It wasn't haunting me anymore. It was becoming me. I'd black out and wake up in strange places, always with ash in my mouth, always with the same voice in my ears. We remake what you forget. I met someone in Georgia who'd heard the same tune, A girl named Eliza. She'd found the music box in her grandmother's attic. 3 years ago, her brother disappeared soon after. She'd been on the run since we spent 3 nights together in an old motel. Compared stories, compared scars. The 4th night, she vanished, just gone. But her side of the bed was still warm, and beneath her pillow, I found the photo again. Now, with 10 figures, Eliza was the 10th. Her eyes wide, her mouth sealed, and behind her the woman in the veil. Closer now, I don't know where this ends. I don't think it does, but I've traced one last thread, one final truth buried under layers of lies, and I followed it back to where it all began. Back to the mansion, the real one, not a memory, not a dream. The Blackridge Hollow estate. The ground was frozen. The trees twisted like screaming limbs. The gate was already open. No moon in the sky, only stars, and even they looked wrong, like they were watching. I stepped through the door. This time, the house didn't shift. It welcomed me, warm, breathing. The walls glistened with moisture. Every painting watched me, every portrait smiled. The piano played itself, and the staircase curved into a spiral I'd never seen. Downward, always downward, always downward. I followed. I passed rooms I'd never dared enter. One held a dinner table filled with raw meat and broken watches. Another, a nursery with 30 empty cradles, each one rocking on its own. I saw myself in every mirror, older, younger, bleeding, laughing, melting at the bottom. The stone changed. It was darker, slick, organic. The walls pulsed, and in the distance I heard the choir, the family, hundreds of voices chanting in one voice. We remember so you don't have to. You are the heir. The house is the God. I stepped into the final room. It was a cathedral made of ribs. The ceiling arched like a cage. The altar glowed with liquid gold, and rising from the center, was it the inheritor, not beast, not man, a shape of smoke and memory, eyes that stretched into infinity, a body stitched from 1,000 stolen faces, and at its feet, the pit not glowing now, not molten, but open, endless, and it sang to me, a lullaby in a tongue I didn't know, but understood. It spoke in emotions, in old blood, in hunger. I stepped closer. My skin began to peel, not from pain, but from memory. I was forgetting everything, my name, my face, my family, gone. The house took them, fed them to the pit. In return, I was given clarity. I saw what the Blackridges did. The original sin, back in 1721. The foundadorian Blackridge cut a hole into the world under this chapel. He wasn't seeking wealth, he was seeking removal. He wanted to forget what he'd done in the colonies, the slaughter, the trade, the horrors. He fed it his guilt, and the thing beneath rewarded him, not with gold, not with power, but with amnesia, freedom from history. But the cost was memory. The cost was people. It needed more and more to consume, to rewrite, to bury that, and the family line was cursed to maintain. The offering to invite the world in, to let stories spread, and eventually to let me in. I'm not the first to stand here, and I won't be the last, but I'm the one the house chose, because I didn't run, because I told the story, because I believed. The inheritor raised its hands. They were mine, my hands. The transformation had already begun. The house doesn't just claim you, it makes you part of the design. A brick in the wall, A face in the frame. A note in the song. The pit opened wider, and I knew what I had to do. Not run, not fight, but finish. Spoke the word, the real one, not aurum mortem, the true word buried beneath all the others. I can't write it here, I won't, because if I do, it will find you. But I said it, and the house smiled. The walls closed, the pit swallowed me, and in that moment, I saw everything, the stories, the forgotten, the devoured. I became part of the archive, part of the engine. I was the next page. I don't know how long I floated in the dark, but eventually I heard a knock, 3 soft knocks from the inside of the wall. And then a whisper. Yours, asking to hear the story again, asking who the Blackridges were, asking what lies beneath. And so here I am, telling it one last time, before you forget me, before I'm replaced, before you see the music box appear on your desk, still closed, still ticking, waiting for you to open it. Dan, if you've made it this far, you've already heard the word. The name, the story, and that's enough. Now the house remembers you, and one night at 9 p.m. sharp you'll feel the floor beneath your feet start to breathe, and your reflection will smile without you, and the gold will call. You won't be able to help it, because this story doesn't end. It replicates you. Don't leave Blackridge, you inherit it now. Close your eyes, listen closely. The house is humming, and it knows your name.